Thank you very much, and welcome to this ninth edition of the program this year. This is the Nigerian Facilities Management Roundtable 2021. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Temple Ashaju. I am a Nigerian journalist, and it's a privilege to be part of this program this year, holding virtually. Of course, the theme for this year is Africa's Facilities Management and Real Estate Beyond the Pandemic, New Realities, and of course, New Strategies. And this is the theme that is going to be forming the crux of our discussion, the conversations that we'll be having via our keynote addresses, and of course, the panel discussions, technical sessions that we'll be having this morning on the program. We all know that the COVID-19 pandemic has changed the dynamics of people, business, and of course, places, the real estate sector, infrastructure, generally. These are basically the key features that powered the entire spheres of business all over the world. Now, this paradigm shift is now driving the market order at the moment, because as we all know, so many businesses, the way they used to run will not happen anymore like that. A lot of companies are now shifting to virtual session, virtual representation and presentation. And this is something that we will be looking at today. How do we help other businesses that depend on us facilities managers to be able to survive going forward whether when the pandemic fizzles away, or even when we continue to live with it and continue to mitigate its impacts on individuals, collectively, and on businesses. So today we've got quite a number of dignitaries in our midst. These are key figures in facilities management industry, not just in Nigeria, but of course across Africa. I will quickly be doing a couple of introductions before we get in deeper into the show this morning, or into the program, I beg your pardon. By way of introduction, it's my pleasure to introduce and of course make welcome Engineer Femi Akitunde, who is the Group Managing Director and of course the Chief Executive Officer of Alpha Mead Group. Femi Akitunde, thank you so much for coming through this morning. Really appreciate your presence. Thank you for sustaining this drive. Thank you for keeping on with the momentum of this particular show. Make welcome Engineer Akitunde this morning on the 9th edition of this program. Please, if we could do a virtual or, in fact, a real clap. Thank you so much, sir. Next on the radar, we will be introducing Mr. Mark Norris in absentia. I do hope that he joins us soon. He is a strategic assets manager and of course a consultant, giving a global touch to facilities management and real estate infrastructure developments all across the world. But of course, next on the list for me this morning, we've got Mrs. Wale Olufore, the Managing Director of Alpha Mead of Facilities. She is also the Group Executive Director, Corporate Services at Alpha Mead, and of course the immediate past chairperson of the Institute of Workplace and Facilities Management, UK Nigeria region. Ladies and gentlemen, make welcome Mrs. Wale Odufalu, I beg your pardon, this morning. Thank you so much, ma'am, for gracing this event again this year. We've also got with us this morning Mr. Or Mrs. Claire Omasheye, the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of JNC International. She's probably not here yet, but I'm sure she will be part of the panel session this morning. We have Captain Dapo Olumide, the Chairman and Executive Committee of K. Caldwell Residents Association. Thank you so much, Captain Olumide, for joining us on the program, the 9th edition of the World Facilities Management Day today. Mr. Nicholas Gers, the head of international business at Alpha Mead Facilities, is also joining us this morning. Of course, we will be recognizing his presence when he comes in. He will also be part of the one of our discussants rather this morning on the panel session. We have Mr. Voke Oshivere this morning on the program too. He is also present. He is here with us. Thank you so much, Mr. Voke Oshivere, for joining us this morning. I think as it stands right now, we will move on to the opening remarks, which will be delivered by the Group Executive Director, Of course, that's the Group Executive Director, Corporate Services at Alpha Mead, and of course, the immediate past chairperson of the Institute of Workplace and Facilities Management, UK, Nigeria region. That is Mrs. Wale Odufalu, who is the pioneer chair of the Institute of Workplace and Facilities Management, IWFM Nigeria. That's a position that she held for 6 years. She's currently the executive director of corporate services at Alpha Mead Group and has over 18 years experience in managing organizational affairs across building services and facilities management industries. Make welcome, ladies and gentlemen, Mrs. Wale Odufalu to deliver the opening speech this morning.
Thank you, Temple, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening from all over the world, wherever you are watching from. Yes, we have over 500 participants registered from this event from 15 countries across Africa, Europe, the US. We have 21 industries represented, spanning the real estate industry, facilities management, financial services, telecoms, healthcare, and of course, the academia. 9% of our registrants are director level, another 23% executive management. We have 35% who are facilities managers and 20% from middle to entry level. So we have quite a rich variety of audience, and we do have a student audience participation from Nigeria, Rwanda, and Ghana. And we want to say a special welcome to everyone to the 2021 Facilities Management Roundtable. So the world has witnessed several changes in the last several months, since the onset of the pandemic, and there have been varied reactions to these changes and even the discussions around the likely outcomes. But it's in the face of changes like this that organizations are driven to seek new and different ways to gain competitive advantage to stay ahead. And we know from reports that there's a very close relationship between the real estate performance and the economy. So uncertainties in the economy, as we have seen in times like this, they can negatively impact the real estate and by inference, the FM industry. As Charles Darwin said, it is not the strongest or the most intelligent of the species that survive. It is the one that is most adaptable to change. So as businesses begin to open up, we recognize that it's time to move out from survival mode and drive growth to be able to return our economies to the path of prosperity. Now, Alpha Mead as an organization has a commitment of care to the industry. And in keeping with our vision to become the biggest and best total real estate solutions company in Africa, we understand the importance of taking the lead to drive discussion and demonstrate this care by providing thought leadership initiatives like this. And so we continue to use platforms such as the Roundtable to set the agenda for the role of FM and the real estate, positioning Africa in the global scheme of things. And this is what has informed a slight tweak in the global theme. The global theme for World FM Day is celebrating FM, standing tall beyond the pandemic. But we took a focused look at this. And so we have tweaked our own theme, to Africa's FM and real estate beyond the pandemic, because a lot of discussions are focused on what the pandemic has done, what the impact has been, business continuity planning, and all of that. But now we know that there are new realities, and new realities demand new strategies. And as an organization with a commitment to care, we feel that we should bring this to the forefront and provide a forum where practitioners can come together and discuss this. And because we believe that facilities management and real estate will play very pivotal roles in the development and prosperity of Africa beyond the pandemic. And this is why we have carefully selected our speakers, because these are people who play key roles in the development of their industry across Africa. And they were in the eye of the storm when the pandemic broke. And I mean, it's what better person to hear from than those who have, been there, done that, maybe not seen it all, but they can share from living experiences. And so for us, this roundtable goes beyond what may be written in books and articles. It presents our audience the opportunity to hear firsthand and ask questions from the speakers and the panelists about how they drove stability in a in a time of uncertainty, and what are they doing differently to pursue growth with all the complexities that we are facing in the world that we find ourselves in, should I say post-pandemic now? So over the past 9 years, we have been driving this narrative. The Roundtable has played host to over 5,000 C-suite executives across Africa. And after the pandemic, after the Roundtable would usually provide a compendium. And this compendium has become a reference document for academic research and organizational process improvement in Africa. And this Roundtable will be no exception. On this note, I'd like to thank all of the panelists and all of the participants for taking out time to attend. Thank you particularly to our panelists for remaining committed to the sustainability of people, businesses, and the environment. And we really look forward to hearing practical truths that can help, the industry, the countries that are participating, the African continent to drive change and to gain a more sustainable foothold as we look forward to a different world. So I encourage every one of the participants to take full advantage of this. We want to hear from you. It's a roundtable. We believe that the learnings will be very practical and useful to you. And for us, the color of success is that you are able to take the learnings from this to use in your personal and professional lives on a daily basis. I want to use this opportunity to commend all facility managers around the world. Thank you for standing strong. Thank you for consistently improving the environment and the practice of FM. Thank you for your commitment to making people, processes, and places what they should be for the world to continue to thrive. On this note, I want to thank you all once again, welcome you all once again, and wish you a happy World FM Day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Wale Odufalu. Thanks a great deal. We please give her a round of applause, something that we can all hear if we do give her the round of applause. Thanks a great deal for that wonderful opening remarks. I appreciate that. Mrs. Wale Odufalu is the Group Executive Director, Corporate Services at Mead, and the immediate past chairperson of the Institute of Workplace and Facilities Management's UK Nigerian region. He is also a pioneer. Thanks a great deal once again for that opening remarks. It's our day here as facilities managers and of course real estate. We create shelter, we make people comfortable in their apartments, we sustain the elevators. All of the elevators that Mead has been managing, to the best of my knowledge, none of them has ever trapped anybody. So far as I know about Mead, this is something that I know. So kudos to Mead Facilities Management. Thanks a great deal for the great work that you're doing. I mean, Cecil mentioned the Nigerian Stock Exchange earlier. This is somewhere that I frequently go to, and I know from experience that it is a habitable place. Something that's Mead is the one that has been championing. Thank you so very much. Now we'll move on to some other addresses. But before we do that, I committed a blunder earlier, and I do hope that I will get a bit of a pardon, and that is by omitting the introduction and the presence of the Managing Director of Mead's facilities himself, Mr. Wale Olufore. By his name, Olufore, the surname means he is someone that brings good, that brings blessings to everyone. And I hope that by pardoning me for omitting his name for the introduction, he will give me some blessings by so doing. Mr. Olufore, thank you so much for being with us on the program again this year. I mean, you have been sustaining the momentum as well. We're really happy to have you around us this year. For those that know him, he's got over 23 years cognate experience handling various contracts and procurement management, administrative and dynamic leadership roles in oil and gas companies like Shell Nigeria and Centrica Resources, where he was country manager before joining AM Facilities. Mr. Olufore holds an MBA, of course, from Nottingham Trent University in the United Kingdom, and is a member of the African Center or supply chain. He is one of the persons that we will be hearing from today, learning the lessons of how the COVID-19 pandemic has changed business, the way we do things generally, today on the program, World Facilities Day in Africa. As it stands now, we will have to hear from him, his address, his opening speech, something that will also usher us into the technical session for today. So Mr. Wole Olufore, thank you so much. Over to you now for the presentation of your speech.
Thank you very much, Temple. I'm not sure if, I thought I was going to go straight into the panel session. I didn't know that I was to even give a speech, but be that as it may, basically, we are here to celebrate World FM Day. For some reasons, it clashed with the Muslim Ramadan holidays last week. So and here we are. Beyond the pandemic, what does the future hold for real estate? We as facility managers, we have been in this business, and from the way we have set up our shop, we have built a lot of resilience in our business continuity framework. So when COVID-19 happened and halted the way we do what we do, especially with global brands halting or removing scope or reducing scope, it actually halted every facet of the business. From a supply chain perspective, which I'm meant to discuss much later, it's obvious that we needed to do something differently. But thank God that Alpha Mead, the way Alpha Mead is built right from the beginning, we have built a lot of robust resilience in the way we manage our organizational framework, and our response to clients was unhindered because all we needed to do was to just open up and release the different frameworks that would enable business continuity, regardless of the halt and start and stop that came with the pandemic. Today, I believe that from the speech from the GMD, while we're talking about what the future holds after the pandemic and how we'll need to unleash, and quickly regain what we have lost. And the panel discussions, we will be having robust conversations about the experience we have had and how it impacted businesses and the lessons we have taken from there on, and how we can then, move the train forward, because the future is for each and every one of us to embrace right now. There is vaccines all over the space now, and as that continues, we believe business will come back to normal. Most multinationals are stalling in bids to, try to look at what is happening, in the space before they can reopen fully, 100%. We'll hear from most of the panelists about what we need to do next, because we have to overcome the fear of the pandemic. It has come. It is not something that is going to go away, but then with a lot of opportunities within the technological space, there is a way around it, and we can live freely, work freely, and recreate together to make life a happy one again. I believe I'll leave the stage now and come back later during the panel discussion so we can talk about the lessons learned and how we move forward. So I'll hand over to the GMD to give us the opening speech.
Thank you very much, Wole. I really would like to thank everybody on this call today for being able to make it to this important occasion, which is our annual event. And I'm hoping that at the end of everything, we will be able to have a lot to share and to celebrate together. I have like 10, 15 minutes for my presentation. Can we see my screen? Is my
Yes,
screen visible?
Yes.
Yes, I can see a screen.
Yes,
Okay.
we can.
Very good. So today I will be talking about Africa's FM and real estate beyond the pandemic, the impact on businesses, the response, lessons learned, and the strategies on the way forward. My talk will be more of a storytelling because the event of the pandemic of 2020 was a major storm on the on activities around the world, and Nigeria was not excluded. But there are people who need to rise to the occasion to make things happen and keep the living environment as sane as it can be. And when you take the medical and healthcare professionals, the next set of people that were majorly impacted and really, really challenged were the facilities managers, because the facilities manager's job is to provide enabling living, working, and recreational environment for people. And when you look at the FM industry in Nigeria, AFAMI definitely holds a place. And that was a very, very unique moment for us to show to our customers that we truly care about their lifestyle and about their living condition and everything that impacts them. So today I will share with you how we as a company responded to the issues and the challenges, what were the key lessons that we took out of it, and how have we used these lessons to reframe our strategies on how to cope with similar situations in the future. The first case of the coronavirus was reported in December 2019, somewhere in Wuhan, China. Nigeria recorded its own first case, February 2020, in Lagos. By March 2020, a lockdown was declared in Nigeria. As at today, 158 million cases have been reported globally. Nigeria has a share of 165,000 of this number. Number of deaths as at this date has been 165, has been 3.29 million. And Nigeria has recorded about 2,091 deaths. So that's the general background of what we have dealt with over the last 1 year or so. How has it impacted the world, especially the business world? There are three key areas of impact: health impact, social impact, and economic impact. There has been a lot of issues around physical health of people. And coming along with that is the emotional health. A lot of people were truly traumatized. Family members, friends, colleagues, people lost a lot of close relations. And those who are able to survive it, when it happens, the apprehension as to how will it end was always there. Social. We are social animals as human beings. People are used to shaking, hugging, playing together, going to parties, going to the office physically. All this became totally grounded. And we were not able to do things the way we used to do it. Of course, the economic impact was real. Globally, income of people, of nations were constrained. Economic activities were grounded in most countries. There were no production activities. Oil, that is a major resource for driving the economy of most countries, were not moving around again. We could not produce, we could not sell. people's income were reduced, some people lost their jobs. So in these three dimensions, the world was heavily and negatively impacted. Of course, when situations like this happen, the immediate action is that leadership have to come to the party. Leadership, the political leaders, the economic leaders, corporate leaders, family leaders, everybody must show up. And when we say you should show up, it means that your services become very, very necessary as at that time. We have to show leadership. And I will discuss how we did this as a company using these 7 key areas of business impact. Of course, what was the strategic framework? What was the focus of our response? We channeled our energy around 3 key points. Capacity. We knew that to deal with this situation, we needed to develop sufficient capacity to grow and become more efficient in what we needed to do. We have customers who are living in residential places we're maintaining. We have people, corporates, large corporates, and I'm talking of the very top multinationals. For those who are very aware of Alpha Mead corporate profile, we manage almost all the top companies in the various industries, from oil and gas to telecoms to banking. They're all in our portfolio. So we have enormous responsibility to activate appropriate response that would help them to run their businesses by maintaining the right environment where people will live, work, play, and recreate at that time. And we know that the capacity we have and we're able to deploy at that time will determine how much success we're able to record in this respect. Having the capacity is one dimension. We also realize that agility becomes very important. Every minute counts. Every day that you're supposed to take a decision and that decision is delayed beyond normal, people's lives are being impacted. If I'm supposed to be somewhere, logistics arrangements became a very, very major challenge. And this is when we had to deploy all the resources within our means to ensure that the people we are looking after do not feel the pain of the pandemic. When capacity and agility were activated, the objective is for us to use that to achieve resilience in our business model. What is resilience in this respect? The resilience is to allow us withstand the shock of the moment, minimize the impact on businesses and people's lives, and to be able to recover very quickly so that we can stabilize things as if it's normal. Is to build a shield around the people, our customers, our business, our employees, and as much as possible, reduce the impact of the external environment and the impact of the COVID on their lives. In doing this, I will not be able to go into all the details of what we did, but I've picked these 7 dimensions to discuss our response, our lessons, and how our strategies have been redefined or reshaped for the future. Number 1 is that we decided to look from outside to the inside. So the first area of focus for us was the customer and the external environment, the marketplace, by ensuring we take effective learning, get our intelligence deployed to monitor what was going on. We were monitoring the statistics, we were monitoring the numbers, we were monitoring the impact, the way it was growing, where it was going, how it was spreading, so that our residential and our office area were able to defend those space appropriately. The second one immediately is that once you know what's going on in the outside world, we focused strongly on the impact of those changes on the products and services that we were rendering. The way we were rendering services in a normal and stable situation, we knew definitely it has to change because there were shifts. We saw immediate shift from very high demand from the office and corporate, from the commercial, from the retail environment that we were managing to the homes. So we needed to rearrange our manpower to focus our energy more on residential because more people were now at home. Unlike before, by 7, 8 a.m. in the morning, focus shifts to the commercial, to the corporate. People would have left home. And we discovered that we had a very, very heavy demand on our home and residential services. That was a shift we needed to do immediately and adjust. Once the services were adjusted, the next thing is to focus on our people. What was the culture of the organization? How do we reorganize ourselves? How do we re-strategize? Following that was what are the immediate response we needed to have on our processes and systems and standards to be able to accommodate this new dimension, this new event. So we had our strategy guys back home. We set up our war room, and our contingency plan was immediately activated to respond to things that needed to change in the environment. And of course, the next was the technology environment. As you all know, AFAMID is very, very heavy on technology, managing over 120-something sites all over Nigeria and across 10 other countries of the world. You can't do that through manual processes and systems. We have a very strong collaborative platform. Our technology system came readily to support what we needed to do. Technology systems are people. We also have stakeholders to manage. Our stakeholders from our board, they were all worried. They wanted to know how we are dealing with the situation right from the chairman. We were almost on the call on a daily basis. The board members from Nigeria, from outside Nigeria, they were calling. They wanted to know what we're doing. We have vendors. We have some in the small category. We have middle category and large category. You needed to understand how you want to shift your focus, how we needed to empower the small scale vendors and balance our resources in terms of cash flow and everything. And of course, you also have lenders. Some of the obligations that were falling due during the period, we needed to manage them effectively. And of course, number 7 is financial. The financial response was also tremendous, both from the top line, because revenue was immediately affected, scope was reduced by a number of companies. You are talking of the middle line, the cost structure, the cash flow structure, and of course, at that time, are you going to be focusing more on your profit or you'll be focusing more on your cash? So the financial strategy also was impacted and we responded appropriately. So I'll go into some of the key lessons and the way we dealt with them. When the situation arose, in terms of customer and market, like I said, we set up a lot of feedback mechanism to gather data. We have some of our teams that were monitoring the market and giving us updates on what was going on, which area of Lagos, which area of Abuja was being affected mostly, and what do we need to do? What are the governments? What's the various state governments, the various country governments? We were monitoring Ghana, we were monitoring Rwanda, monitoring Ivory Coast, Ethiopia, all the places where we had staff. We needed to know what the countries were doing, what is the rate of spread of this situation. And our help desk was deployed. Our help desk, fortunately, we have the virtual help desk. We reinforced it. We ensured that the technology platform to support all the calls that will be coming from our staff, from customers, were reinforced, and virtually were able to respond. The shift from outright sales of homes changed. As you know, we also have a development company. We had more people who were already buying into our products, paying instrumentally. Most of them could no longer cope. And all the construction activities stopped. We had dates, we promised people that we're going to deliver their homes. So emphasis changed from customers that were buying to customers that were renting. So we needed to evolve and bring up new products. When situations like this happen, like I said, a lot goes with it in terms of you responding. Based on all this for customer and market, what were the key lessons for us, and how these lessons impacted our strategy? First thing that we realize is that we're in business because our customers need our services. So our focus was more on what are our customers going through? What do they need now? Where should we put more resources to be able to meet those needs? So the data told us where we should change our emphasis. We opened multiple channels of communication through which customers could reach us in case of need, because we experienced COVID in some of our locations, some of our sites. How did we manage them? How did we respond? How did we support them? We had to arrange for food, bringing food to the rooms of those who are in isolation, taking those that were affected to the COVID center. So we were using telephone, we were using emails, we were using different platforms. And that gave our customers sufficient comfort that, look, if you can't reach them this way, you can reach them this way. And that was very, very useful that time. Let me go to the second area of products and services, some of the shifts that we saw. Our immediate response was that we needed to adjust some of our programs. People who were paying all this 1 year, 2 year rent, they could no longer cope. And some people's rents were falling due around that time. Immediately, we activated a new structure we call the rent for less. What the rent for less does is that we were able to get some of those estates that have been vacant for a long time, where people were not renting. We approached the landlord. We took about 100 apartments. So we approached the landlord, we paid them 1 year upfront, and we were able to get a lot of people into those apartments to be paying on a monthly basis. And many people really, really appreciated that service. And as I speak to you, it has become one of the services AlphaMead is rendering to the public. We now have over 250 people that are in those accommodations that we're able to bring up during that period. So we have implemented monthly rental system, and we have implemented situation where landlords that have their vacant apartments, no money, we pay them upfront for 1 year, and we rent out to people on a monthly basis, and it's been a very, very good experience. For some of our buyers who bought properties for us that they could not meet up with their payment obligations, we came up with the rent-to-own structure, which allowed them to continue to pay as tenants, but also have a different line of payment for gradual and reduced equity payment. We were able to get good mortgage program for them at 6%, and we converted most of them who were struggling to meet their payment obligation to rent-to-own landlords. So rather than paying rent to people, we moved them into apartments, and they were paying rent to themselves by paying their monthly instrumental. Another service that we were able to pivot during that period, we were able to develop a new product called the Mobile Clinic and Diagnostic Facility. We discovered that a lot of hospitals were not well prepared. The diagnostic services, they said a health challenge that is well diagnosed is more than 50% resolved. So we came up with a mobile facility, which is a cabin system that has full laboratory capacity in it, and it also has X-ray system, ultrasound system, and we could move it into a hospital and mobilize telemedicine services where people were able to connect to over 100 doctors that can speak to them because movement were restricted. So you could get into this. This is a third line of our business. And as you are aware, we do facilities management, we do real estate development and affordable home, and we also have healthcare, AlphaMead Healthcare. So in all the three different business lines that we had, we came up with new services and new products that delighted our customers and served them very well during that period. The key lesson for us in the way we adjusted our services swiftly during that period was that you need to be open to making necessary changes to existing products and services. When situations change, you cannot rely on what was working for you in a normal situation. You must be adaptive, you must be innovative, and you must be very, very agile in deploying those resources. Pivoting really, really helped us during that time. We were also able to track and monitor the direction and the volume of demand of our customers and adjust our delivery model to meet. It's important for you to know how to adapt to this situation to improve. You need to drop some services that need to be de-emphasized during that time. We removed some products from the market, we added some new ones, and we're able to adjust appropriately. So those are the things that we did in the area of products and services during that time. Our stakeholder management. This is a time that leadership need to show up. You need to provide comfort and assurance to all your stakeholders. If you have bank debt, the bankers will be worried whether you are still there, whether you are still alive, whether your business is going to survive or not. The customers that you have are worried whether you have the capacity to cope with their demands. Your board is worried whether the company is still going to continue to operate as a going concern after this event. The vendors are worried whether the services they've rendered to you, you'll be able to pay them, and whether you'll still be able to continue to call for their services and engage them into the future. So effective communication was very, very important. Your employees are worried. They are distressed because they have families they have to look after. They don't know whether their jobs are still going to be there. They don't know whether you'll be able to continue to pay their salary. But I can assure you that your ability to have what helped us was that we have a very good stakeholder management system in place in Alphamid as part of our contingency planning. For every stakeholder that we have a way of understanding their requirements, what is their interest, what is the stake, and how can they influence our business success positively and negatively, and what do we need to do to keep them in the positive framework. So that's, we activated it immediately. We were meeting virtually on a daily basis. The executive management team were all there. And we then reprioritized how we allocated our resources to meet different stakeholder demands. We developed effective communication framework for dealing and engaging the various stakeholders proactively on a regular basis. And that was very, very useful during that period. I can also tell you that it's very important to know that during situations like this, your people matter a lot. Our employees, at that time, the culture of the organization became very, very important. It is not when you have crisis that you try to get the engagement or the commitment and loyalty of your employees. The kind of environment you have created, the trust you've built with them over time will come to play. And we're very grateful to God, we're very grateful to all our employees that when we call them once, they all answered twice, even at the risk of their own lives. We call them, many of them were kept in locations, especially the residential. We told them they can no longer go home. We put certain incentive in place to keep them on site, to make the customers happy and comfortable during that period. But while that was going on, we activated several staff engagement sessions at department level, at directorate level, at teams level, and we ensured that everybody was well paid during that period to cater for the extra inconvenience they were going through. Like I said, that technology came to play. All our staff at management level, they are all on 24/7 internet connectivity. They all have their smartphones, they all have their laptops, and we're able to engage everybody adequately. Everybody will be looking up to leadership. Leadership had to show empathy to people. That's not the time to get judgmental. Few mistakes will be committed. You must be prepared to be a learning organization, to understand, to accommodate people, and support them with learning. Communication was up there, motivation, training, decision-making. We changed the number of things about how our decisions were made and how those things were used to the service of our customers. Processes, systems, and standards. Business continuity plan became a very, very useful tool. If you did not have it before, please, as managers of companies, not just facility management company, you must have business continuity plan in place, contingency plan, which will simulate every possible thing that can go wrong, from fire to major disaster. Some of them you may not be able to predict. For instance, the COVID, nobody could have predicted the COVID. But what we had to do was, looking through our continuity plan, we simulated the closest situation that resembled that. And it was easy for us to quickly adapt and update that, which was what we used, and it really helped. We changed our decision lines to multi-layers, such that people at the coalface were enabled, were empowered to be able to make certain decisions without necessarily calling on any executive to give them instruction, because at that time, every minute counted. We activated our risk management system to ensure that all the possible risks that we could see were managed to ALAP level. ALAP means a level as low as reasonably practicable. So we were able to do this because all our staff are involved in how the risk registers were developed over time, and they understand how those risks are to be mitigated. So we had little direct contact, but with minimal directive, they know what to do exactly. We kept collecting data, because when you are dealing with this kind of situation, there must be a feedback mechanism that allows you to get information from remote locations. All those channels were deployed, and the feedback that we get were interpreted, and they were used to adapt to the current situation. I mentioned about technology platform. We are very heavy on technology. 70 to 80% of our processes have been fully automated, from human resources to administration to logistics to finance. So it became very easy for us to leverage those capability during that period. We were holding team virtual meeting because we've implemented Office 365, which we were able to use on Teams, and it really enabled us to respond to situation. Electronic document management system became handy. We really have a lot of manual document signing anyway in the first instance. So approval process, workflow processes have been automated, and we used it to our maximum advantage during that period. I want to also mention something about how we dealt with the issue of finance during that period, because when you're looking at the financial situation, there were issues that we needed to deal with that were not necessarily as you could expect it to be. And when you meet that kind of situation, you need to resolve a lot of dilemmas that you must deal with. Financial situations, some of the dilemmas we needed to deal with quickly include, should we continue to look at the capital projects we're doing? What were the capital expenditure versus operating expenditure? How do we shift from putting more emphasis on operational expenditure that will guarantee continuity of processes, of business, and of service delivery to our customers? We had to proactively engage our lenders, because at that time, you also will expect that there are cash flow challenges, there are debt obligations falling due. We engage them, and we met all the obligations that were due based on engagement early. If you don't engage them, they get worried, and we were able to do this effectively. During that same period, we activated board meeting, which enables us to get some approvals to do certain things in the way that will help the business. During the period of lockdown, we needed to change our focus from profit more to cash. There are services we had to render with low margin, or almost some even at a loss, just to ensure that we're able to mobilize cash and empower our low income vendors. The small scale vendors needed support, they needed capacity to be able to continue to serve us. So we shifted our emphasis to be able to adequately motivate them and support them with necessary logistics and financial requirements to provide services to our customers. The strategy also was looking at, are you going to be focusing on stability of your business and of your operation versus growth? At that time, we took a clear and conscious decision that growth was not our focus. Stability was it. And by making that conscious policy decision, we were able to realign some of our commitment, we were able to realign some of our focus, and all our staff were able to come on board these processes. Staff engagement was key. We were holding executive management meeting every week, 3 hours. We set up a war room immediately, gathering data, different directors will get information from their staff, we go to the meeting, we review it, we assess what needs to be done, and then actions and decisions were very prompt. So this is how we responded, and a lot of the lessons that we gained during that period, I can assure you, they are formed part of what defines our business model going forward now. If you can survive that kind of situation, I can assure you that when things become very, very rough, and you're able to deal with it effectively, in a stable and regular situation, most of those systems and processes will work even much better. I hope I've been able to share with you our story, our experience, the lessons, and how our strategies have been reshaped, reformed as a result of the COVID experience. While it may appear to some as a bad and a very negative development, I think what we should do is to focus, not to waste the crisis, not to waste the pain, convert the pain to useful gains, and you can see how that gain will continue to benefit us as a nation, as a people, as corporates going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Engineer Femi Akintunde, the Group Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of Alpha Mead Facilities AMF. Can we appreciate Engineer Akintunde, please, by giving him some round of applause for this wonderful lesson that he has just shared with us. Those are lessons that an erudite research person, a resource person like him has learned from COVID-19, and it's such a privilege for us to be listening to him here today and learning from him. Thank you so much, Engineer Akintunde. I think right about now, we will be taking some questions that have been put in the Q&A box, the question and answer box that we have on the call. Of course, that will be putting across to Engineer Akintunde. People still want to learn from your experience today. One of the first questions that I will be putting across, sir, is from Abdulaziz. And he says that you mentioned earlier that your company is currently managing over 100 sites across the country. How are you able to manage the variation, or let me say, increase in cost of building materials, the increase in the cost of building materials for maintenance and construction works? It's obvious some cost of building materials have skyrocketed by 100%, an increase in which the governments were not concerned about, well, a little bit of mix up there. But basically, he's more concerned, sir, about the price of building materials that have surged. I guess cement is one of the building materials that he must be referring to, and we know how challenging that has been. Would you like to respond to that now before we take the next question, sir?
Okay, thank you very much. That was a very good question. As a result of the COVID, the financial or economic shock affected everybody, and situation made it more difficult. The simple economic law that says that the lower the supply, the higher the price. Production activities were constrained. We didn't have enough available, and demand started going back. So price of input materials went up significantly. So in that kind of situation, that's your own cost of input. Most of our own contracts, unfortunately, they are locked-in contracts of 1 year, 2 years for facilities management. And then for our buildings, for our affordable homes, we have sold some houses to people as off-plan, and they have committed, and if they are meeting their obligation, you cannot change price. I think this is where the dilemma of leadership comes in. You then have to ask yourself that when this situation happens, the price of your input has gone up. You have to be very, very innovative. You have to take a second look at your own processes and your cost of input as well, your processes. How do you reduce costs? Where are the cost reduction opportunities? So you go as far as you can to reduce your cost of other items, yeah, because you have no control over price. But if you improve, reduce your losses of items, the usage, you monitor more closely, you control usage more, you will be able to reduce costs. But even after you have done that, you will still discover that you may not have been able to adequately absorb all the changes that have impacted you negatively. One thing in Alpha Mead that we always stand by is our brand is very important. Our reputation is important. And because of the kind of customers that we provide services to, we live by the contract. Yes, some customers were very, very magnanimous. They were very understanding. As a matter of fact, we discovered that some customers even came to our aid when they saw the amount of resources we deployed to keep them safe and comfortable during that period. Some people paid more money in advance to us to enable us continue to provide those services. So you have some customers like that, but not all. At the same time, you are going through this price increase from outside. Some customers are asking you to also reduce what they are paying you. So you are faced with pressure from two sides. Cost of input is reducing. Your pricing cannot go up. Some customers are reducing your scope. You have deployed resources that are far more than the scope they are asking you to take. So you are now being compressed. But it is important for you to balance all this, to say, how do I respond? Where are the price adjustment mechanisms? What can you activate? Engagement is far more important at that time. And I cannot tell you here that you will be able to absorb everything. And remember in my presentation, I said one of the dilemmas we needed to deal with is the dilemma between growth and stability. That's the time your customers want to see your empathy. The margin I will make in a stable situation is different from the margin I will expect to make under that kind of stress. Because as you are affected, they are also affected in their place of work. Many people lost their jobs. Many people lost their businesses. Businesses were struggling. So customers also want to see your empathy during that time. And we have customers that we've been serving for more than 10 years, 12 years, 13 years. They are with us today. We are with them because they've seen the way we responded to situations when it was not palatable. And I think this is a decision, it's a call different business leaders have to make. Do you want to pass everything and make life difficult for your customers at that time? Or you want to challenge yourself to see how much you can absorb, how much you can innovate to be able to cope and engage them to also see part of what they can help you to manage so that you can continue to provide service to them.
Thank you very much. There are quite a number of questions here for you, actually. We'll just string them in now, and then that will eventually lead us into the panel session where we will be hearing more from our resourceful panelists and discussants that we have on the event, on the call this morning. Quickly, sir, before we move on, let me string two questions together. There's one coming from Ayodeji Oluleye, and it is saying that what has been the biggest challenge in automating your processes? And I'll string that particular question with another one that came from, I think it's Mbemba, that says, is the FM software a must for its success? And that what do you look out for when selecting your facilities management software?
Okay, that is my professor from the University of Ibadan. That was my project supervisor in my final year, and we remain in close contact, and he's one of the mentors that have really, really supported Alpha Mead till date. So I have to acknowledge him. I didn't even know he was on the platform today. So I say good morning, Prof, and thanks for being here. The question he asks is about the difficulties in implementing technology for business. I think it's a challenge, but what is important is, first of all, to be very, very clear in your mind. What do you need technology for? Technology is an enabler, and it's also an accelerator. And we as an organization, because of the scale of our business, we cannot, I repeat, we cannot rely on manual system. We needed to use the technology to enable difficult systems, difficult processes to be implemented. And also because of the geographical spread of our operation in different places, the only way out is for us to have a very good technological platform that gives us good oversight and line of sight to the businesses to be able to deploy capacity and support our employees wherever they are located. So we have a very robust technology department. As a matter of fact, not just technology now as in technology, we even have a dedicated business process automation manager. His full job is looking at automation across all our businesses. And what that does is that every area where we see bottleneck, we're asking ourselves, what is the system, what is the technology we need to deploy? You define it, and their job is to work like consultants to every business area, from procurement to human resources to administration to finance. They will look at what they are doing and define the process. And I'm sure you're also aware that FM happens to be the first FM company in Nigeria to get the ISO certification. And before you can deploy technology, your process must be well streamlined, it must be well defined, it must be well documented. And when you have that, you have a basis to apply automation to it. Don't try to automate a process that has not been defined and standardized and stabilized. You will run into problem. So I think the starting point for us is that we had to put resources there. Our best brains, the best people available in the technology industry, we had to employ them, and they work for the company on full-time basis. We also have a lot of technology consultants that are working for us from outside. So we use both internal and external resources to address our capacity from technological point of view. We define the requirement, we know areas where we need to deploy it to, we get the users to be engaged, we stabilize the process, we map the workflow, and we put technology to support it. We solve it options. Some we have to develop in-house, some we have to buy from outside. I'll give you an example of one of the technologies we deployed from inside. We call it Eye on Site. From 120 locations, it's about 180 when we add other countries. We are able on a daily basis to know what our sites are doing in terms of inspection. As soon as people are doing inspection on their various sites, they have the smartphone. We have a technology developed by FM that enables us to capture all the issues that need to be addressed, those that are minor corrections, those they can do, those that we have to prepare what's scope for the client to give us approval, and those that will be projects. And the back end support category managers can pick those issues, put them into scope, define it, and put services in place to resolve the problem. FM is the proprietor of that technology. No other FM company has it in this country. Even internationally, when we got a project that we did with CBRE is the biggest, is the global FM and real estate company in the world. We work for them in Africa on some important multinational scope on projects. That is the technology we use, and they so much appreciate it. We've received a number of inquiries of partners who want to, they've asked us to actually commercialize it, but for now, we're still using it in-house. Another technology we've been able to deploy is what we call call to fix. Call to fix allows us to run our services like Uber service. So right now in Lagos, we've qualified over 1,000 technicians and small-scale FM companies that we have trained, and we have monitored what they are doing, and we have pre-qualified them on that platform. So people can call for FM service. Oh, I have a leaking tap, I have a burnt bulb, my AC is not working. From 20 to 30 minutes distance from wherever you are, all over Nigeria, you can use the app. It's a mobile app, which we have deployed. You can write it down, call figure 2, fix. Call us, we fix it. So when you call to fix, register as a customer there, you will see it. Any service you render, you will see 5 service providers in that area that are closest to you. So it's not a case of somebody giving you a price and then you just pay it. You will see 5, and it will show you their relative distance from where you are located. So you can pick any one of them to scope, and you can do virtual inspection with them. You can shoot video of the problem. They will see it before they come. They will tell you the material they will need. And we're able to deploy all this, and it works very well. So I hope I've been able to answer the 2 questions altogether, including the one that asks about the CMMS that we use, the computerized maintenance management system. There are several of it in the market, and some customers will tell you, for instance, Shell, they use Plano for their CMMS. Some other companies use maintenance connection. Some use facilities desk. We have several types, but the principles of operation are the same. We, as a company, also have the one that we also use, which we have been operating for so many years. We call it Instanta. And interestingly, Instanta was developed in Nigeria by some Nigerian technology guys. So Nigeria is moving forward. There is a lot that is happening in the industry, and we are making significant progress to improve all these activities. Thank you.
Can we appreciate Engineer Akintunde once again, please? Thank you so much for answering all of those questions. There are so many questions that we have here, basically buzzing our Q&A box in here. But what we would like to do now is to defer some of those questions till the panel session, where we'll have a lot of the discussants that will be able to leverage those questions here to answer some of these questions. Because again, we have limited time for this session. As you know, this is a virtual thing, but I need to just quickly remind us all that there are so many things that Engineer Akintunde has made mention of, and some of the things that they have implemented on their part as a leading foremost facilities management company in Nigeria, in this country, is that they have been able to come up with adjustments of programs. They came up with a program known as Rent for Less. Over 250 people are now paying monthly rental systems in one of the major facilities that they run. And of course, one of the things that Engineer Akintunde has mentioned is that you must have a contingency and continuity plans, something to keep you going. In other words, you're keeping up with the trends of what COVID-19 is bringing aboard, because this is the major paradigm shift that we are having at this point in time. It is redefining how we're doing business, how we live our daily lives. A final point that he made again is that there is a feedback mechanism that they put in place, something to tag along and be able to move on. There's a whole lot to learn on this show today, on this program, of course, sponsored and put together by Mead facilities. And we recognize the fact that there are over 250 people currently on this video call at this point in time, tapping into the session. And we must also recognize the presence of quite a number of the lecturers, academics in our midst from the University of Lagos, University of Ibadan, and of course, folks from Jesoda, Nigeria, Hermes Paving Stones. We appreciate your presence. Thank you so much for coming through. Paul Osaji and company, thanks a great deal for honoring us with your presence on this event today. We appreciate representatives from Metropolitan Facility. Thank you so much for coming through. All of the property lawyers in our midst today, you are highly welcome. We appreciate your presence. Thank you so much. And surprisingly, joining us now is a major dignitary and speaker that we have in our midst, who just joined us from the United Kingdom, Mr. Mark Norris. Mr. Mark Norris is the head of is the director of Asset Reliability Consultants Limited in the United Kingdom. Thank you so much, Mr. Mark Norris, for coming through at this point. Of course, you are going to be giving us a bit of a presentation. We'd like to get your technical presentation on risk-based facilities and assets management in the era of VUCA. Panelists in the era of VUCA, I beg your pardon there. This is something that we will be hearing from you shortly. I don't know if you're ready to go ahead with that right now, or you just want to take a breather first.
I'm happy to pitch into the presentation if you're ready for it now.
Great. So the floor is yours, Mr. Norris.
see that?
Absolutely, we can see your screen.
Yep. Okay, great. Thank you very much, folks. This is apologies for being late, but as things got rearranged, unfortunately, I was previously occupied. So, what we're going to do—
Is the volume clear? I think it's a low volume.
Yes.
Max volume is very low.
Yeah.
While Mark is trying to sort that out, I'd like to appreciate and recognize Mr. Akim Oguniro, the former managing director of UPDC. It's one of the very, very good friends of the house. He's always there. We appreciate you, sir.
Right, and thank you so much. And welcome, Mr. Akim Oguniro, former managing director of UAC UPDC Rates. Thank you so much for being with us on this program today. He is currently the chairman of LBIC, Lagos Building Investment Company. I really appreciate it. We're honored to have you on the program today. Thank you so much, sir. And while we wait for Mr. Norris to beef up his volume, I think we should ask Engineer Akintunde one more question just before we hear from Mr. Norris, and before we move on to the panel session. Let me quickly ask you this, Engineer Akintunde. Basically, so I went to the London Stock Exchange recently. I took a picture there, and I remember that you manage the Nigerian Stock Exchange, which is now the Nigerian Exchange Group. I also know that the London Stock Exchange, of course, recognized Alpha Mead facilities as one of the hundreds of companies to inspire Africa in the near future. What can we generally, the public, expect from Alpha Mead by way of an outlook now in the near future around partnership, collaborations going forward?
Yeah, thank you very much. That's a very strategic question you're asking me. And I hope my board will forgive me, and I will try not to divulge too much information of some of the plans that we have in the future, very near future. I'm sure you're aware of the recent survey that was conducted by the Nigeria Stock Exchange of about 2,000 companies that were surveyed in Nigeria, and Alpha Mead came in the top 10 of companies that people say they will buy their stock if they get listed today. We've looked at all the requirements, we met it, but the board decision has not been taken finally. So that's one of the directions, and that can happen anytime from now. Now, what can the industry and the market expect from Alpha Mead? I think one of the things that we do differently is that we pay a lot of attention to actually grow the business. We believe that when you go to the market or you show up, there must be substance behind you. That substance is where our focus, our emphasis is laid now. 2 years ago, we were recognized among the top 25 CEO, next bull, by the Stock Exchange and Business Day. For us, those awards are okay. London Stock Exchange recognized us as one of the top 100 companies to inspire Africa. I was there in 2019 to take the award. We acknowledge, we appreciate it. Recently, one of our projects was acknowledged by IFC for EDGE certification. IFC is one of the arms, the private investment arm of World Bank. They were here to present the award to us. We get all these international awards just because our focus is on building capacity and deploying them appropriately. We are growing solutions to problems of humanity from the aspect of providing safe, comfortable, secured space for people to live, work, play, and recreate. So this is our focus for now. We're going to continue to innovate. We're going to continue to come up with products in the areas of our business, from facilities management to affordable homes to healthcare. Very soon, in about 2-3 weeks from now, there will be a major healthcare product we are launching in Nigeria. Dignitaries will be there. I'm sure that information will come to the market. In the area of technology, prop tech, we are coming up with 2 or 3 new world-class state-of-the-art technology solutions that would disrupt FM management services in Nigeria. And this has been tested. We've been on the development arm for the past 3.5 years that we've been working on that project. So we have products coming to the market, we have systems, and we're also looking at how the company itself will be positioned appropriately in the capital market. So this is just the little I can say for now. Watch the space.
Thank you so much for not letting out fully the cat out of the bag, but you've given us the tip of the iceberg. Thank you so much, Engineer Kitunde. Ahead of Mr. Norris's presentation, let's quickly introduce our key guests and discussants for the panel session. We will be having Mr. Wale Olufore, the Managing Director of Alpha Mead Facilities, Mr. Voke Oshiveri, who is the Executive Director, Sales, Marketing and Business Development at JNC International, ably representing Mrs. Claire Omasheye, the Managing Director of JNC International. Captain Dapo Olumide, the Chairman, Executive Committee of K. Caldwell Residents Association is also here. He will also be present on the panel session this afternoon or this morning. Mr. Nicholas Gales, the Head of International Business at Alpha Mead Facilities, will also be there. Mr. Mark Norris, Director of Assets Reliability Consultants Limited in the United Kingdom, is expected to now give us his presentation if he is ready.
Okay, so hopefully you can hear me better now. Is that okay?
Very audible. Thank you so much.
Okay, great. Okay, folks, so I'm here as part of the delegation of half a dozen people who are speaking. This is talking about taking a risk-based approach to facilities asset management in the current era of volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. So, as an introduction, what is a risk-based approach to facilities asset management? Well, in general, we're looking at a way of optimizing investment. We're balancing cost, risk, and performance, and we never have enough money to do everything. So we're looking at the operational performance of the assets over their life cycle and rationalizing our expenditure. So what risk is acceptable according to different stakeholders? And we use this prioritization to determine when we're going to invest, because facilities deteriorate, and that's the biggest risk in operating and owning facilities. So there are standard approaches that are used for this. By condition, we use things like facility condition index or another type of consistent ranking process. We look at the cost to improve condition, we look at the risk of poor condition, and we plan our investments by risk prioritization using a system similar to this. So what's changed during this current time? Well, the pandemic has actually been a benefit because it's helped us focus on what is truly essential to businesses. So if you're operating a set of facilities for a production unit, I'm currently working with a global pharmaceutical firm. So we're looking at which business processes are absolutely essential. What can we not turn off? And which of the facilities that we're operating are essential to those equally essential business processes? Then we can look at the systems within the facility that allow the facility to operate and the assets within those systems that allow them to operate. And it's assessing the risk of failure of these essential facilities that allow us to develop an asset criticality ranking process, and therefore we can target our maintenance and our approach to those facilities. So why is it important now? Well, lockdowns require all but essential staff to stay at home. So who are the essential staff? Establishing which facilities are essential, then we can cascade that down. So we can determine the systems and assets. And then we know which members of staff are essential to maintaining those facilities so we can continue to operate, and who has to be on site in order to operate those business processes. And we can look at the asset condition and what the likelihood of failure is to prioritize maintenance on those assets. So what is this asset criticality ranking process? Well, the purpose is to work out what a prioritization is. Where must we put our effort? Where is it best spent? So there are various priority ranking processes around, But what I'm proposing here is a way to understand how all of those criticalities come together and develop a process of saying what's our highest risk, and therefore that's where we put our maintenance effort. So there are 7 steps to it. We establish what the business processes are, and we look at a business criticality ranking process. So what is really important to the business? Now, as I say, the pandemic has actually allowed us to do this because we've been forced to do it. So we already understand that in terms of the business criticality. So then we can overlay it and say, well, which facilities, which systems, which assets, what's our likelihood of failure, get a ranking for all of these and put them together, which gives us a reliability optimization ranking at the end. So I'm going to rattle through these because we don't want to take up much time, but you will have these slides afterwards so you can go through them more thoroughly. So we developed the business process, simple flow diagram there. And how and where does the business process interact with facilities? Well, the easiest way is there's a campus map and we have simply drawn it. Now, this one is for how goods enter the plant. So how does it interact with those systems, facilities or zones? And once we understand that, we can start assessing the criticality. The next stage is the business criticality ranking. How critical is that process to the business? What is the risk if that process goes down? Now, as I said, the pandemic has allowed us to assess this already. So where we've had plants we've operated, we're simply sticking to those. We've understood the risks. Okay, so I proposed just a 4-stage one. There's a simple assessment process there. So we get a score of 1, 2, 3 or 4. Then we want to establish which facilities are critical. And we can use something like a swim lane diagram, like I have over on the right-hand side here. So across the top, it identifies which FM teams are involved. Down the right-hand side, it establishes the criticality and gives scores. And the facilities are down the left. And the business process cascades through. So we can see how this impinges on the facilities and who is responsible for it. And then we can start saying, well, okay, which of the facilities are absolutely critical to it? And which ones can go down, which ones can't? Where do we have workarounds and so on? Then we get to the system criticality ranking. Well, now we understand which facilities are critical, which of the systems within this facility are critical to it staying up. And now we've looked, as I said, at goods in. This particular process, these goods coming in have to be temperature controlled. So the entire process has to be kept cool. So we need to look at how that operates within our facilities. So obviously one of the key facilities is the one that's cold for it to be delivered. So the asset criticality ranking within those systems, well, which of the assets allow us to continue that operation of the systems and keeping everything cool? And we go through this criticality ranking process again of how critical are those individual assets to the systems. Then the asset failure likelihood factor. Now, we should have sufficient data on how our assets behave to be able to determine how likely they are to go wrong. So we talk about here, we've got 5 rankings: unlikely, low, moderate, high, very high. So similar to a general risk process. Then the reliability optimization ranking, which is simply a case of taking everything that we've learned already in terms of business criticality, facility criticality, system and asset criticality to form the reliability optimization ranking. So I put an example here over on the right-hand side where we went through the system. So there's a scanning system that comes into the schools. This comes into a building W5 where the HVAC system is fed by one primary chilled loop. So we established that the only critical asset for this was the chilled water loop pipework, because there was a workaround for everything else. We had we had 5 chilling systems that needed to operate out of 7. So the chillers were fine. We had redundancy built in there, but we only had one pipework loop. And we'd established that there had been previous pipework failures on the site, but nobody knew what the condition was. So when we look over on the right-hand side, business criticality ranking, well, this is what they produce. This is what they make. So that's a 3 out of 4. The facility criticality ranking 2, because there are workarounds. the system criticality ranking 2, the asset criticality ranking 2, because again, there's redundancy, but the likelihood of failure, we rated it as a 3 because we didn't know what the condition of the pipework was. So that gives us a criticality ranking of 72. And that meant that we started to put robots down the pipework to work out what thickness of pipework was left. So in summary, we just went through this process. So we looked at what our business processes are and what's critical, what the facilities are and what's critical within them, the systems that are critical to the operation of that facility, and then the individual assets that allow those systems to operate, and then determine what the likelihood of failure is, cascade that out to give us a reliability optimization ranking, and then we can optimize the approach to maintenance for those assets. And we can move on.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mark Norris. And we have a bit of an appreciation for him. Thank you so much for that wonderful delivery of your speech there, of your presentation. Really appreciate it. This takes us on to the panel discussion. And as I mentioned earlier, we have joining us on this panel this afternoon or this morning still is Mr. Wale Olufore, MD Alpha Mead Facilities, Mr. Volke Oshevire, the ED from JNC International, Captain Dapo Olumide, Mr. Nicholas Gills, and of course, Mark Norris, Mr. Mark Norris, the Director of Assets Reliability Consultants Limited in the United Kingdom, who just gave us his presentation now, as well as Engineer Femi Akintunde. And to all of these super resourceful persons in the facilities management industries, I will be posing questions to them across board so they can share with us their experiences and the lessons from the COVID-19 pandemic as to how it has impacted businesses and the changes that it is bringing on board. How are they adapting to it? Of course, we've heard earlier from the horse's mouth, the managing director, the GMD of Alpha Mead Facilities earlier, the key experience there. But then let us talk to the executives. What has changed? What is changing? How are they adapting to all of those changes? I'll start, of course, with Mr. Wale Olufore as to the executive experience for businesses at FM operations in terms of this particular COVID-19 pandemic. What has that really changed for you, and how have you basically been able to adjust to it at the executive level, different from what Engineer Akintunde has stated earlier? Of course, this will also be your first word for us, basically on the panel.
Okay, thank you very much, Temple. Thank you to listeners who have joined us from across the world. And thank you, Mark, for that beautiful short presentation. I would like you to share the slides afterwards. Okay, so before the pandemic, we all know that even our own Nigerian space, because I'm speaking now from the supply chain side of things and how it supports our FM service delivery. Before the pandemic, Nigeria has a lot of myriad of challenges in the supply chain space, from our seaport to bad poor infrastructure and what have you. Now, for a company to survive in that kind of space, right, you need to do a whole lot of things differently. When you are pushed to the wall, then your creativity starts to tell you there can always be another route of escape. Like I mentioned earlier on, I talked about the impact of the pandemic. We were prepared, but then the pandemic just suddenly bounced on us, and then we started doing more of those things. We built, let's say we built our resilience up to level 5 or level 6. We had to increase it to level 10 during the pandemic, and it has actually, helped us. What were the impacts really to our business? Of course, scopes were redefined because the spaces were almost empty. So that means a lot of loss of revenue. But then you want to stay afloat, to continue to do the business, continue to remain profitable. So we had to collaborate amongst ourselves and look at how best we can make use of the few staff that you can collaborate with physically, and with the use of technology, those are in the background, but then our field operatives were there, in the front line, facing the fire. So we had to, plan in conjunction with several estates that we manage to work out. We can make sure that these guys are up and running without even leaving the site. So we created a lot of opportunities for our people to continue to provide the service, whilst at the back end, we are providing the necessary support. Lessons, what are the lessons we learned during the pandemic? You see, because we have built this resilience, we realize that technology, technology is one great tool that is an enabler for us to be able to respond to the impact of the pandemic. How did we do it? From the supply chain perspective, we had to begin to look for vendors with resilience and capacity to deliver in large volumes, and with capacity who have financial muscles, and they will not be saying, oh, I want my money now, I want my money now. We were able to do that effectively by creating, using digital channels and online platforms to ensure business continues willy-nilly. So what would be the future of FM? I can tell you categorically from where we are at, we have to start thinking deeply about the fourth industrial revolution. That's the age of, we are in that age of digitization, and we cannot be left behind. It's important to recognize that the things are changing across the world. The first, second, and third world have moved on. Now the fourth industrial revolution that talks about Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, robotics, we have to integrate them into the business right now, because that is the platform that the world is moving on. People will not, nobody will transact business on a manual basis again. Basically, the key lessons for us is that the future is expected to foster more creativity and productivity, leveraging on technology, as we continue to build resilience that, on a sustainable basis, to make sure that whatever happens, if 10 COVIDs will come tomorrow, I can assure you that with the kind of structures that Alpha Mead has put on ground, we are able to respond. The key word is be prepared. Be prepared and be ready to invest in technology. Yes, I've had several customers come and say, look, with your investment in technology, how does it translate to cost savings? But I try to tell them that, look, nothing good comes easy. Number one thing is, as much as you want savings, right, you have to understand that all of these new technologies too requires a credible amount of investment. So what we should be concerned about as we move forward beyond the pandemic is about end user experience.
All right.
It's about making the end user of our services very happy. So play down the costs, because all these technologies that we want to leverage on, they cost money. It's an investment that over time will, the total life cycle cost then becomes, the end user cost becomes reduced. But at the beginning, because we are just starting, our infrastructure are not even there to support all of these things, so it will cost money at the beginning. But over time, it will level up, and the customer is happy. Our services are pocket friendly, and everybody is happy. Okay. So basically, that is that will be my first contribution as we go into this session.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Mr. Olufore. Thanks a great deal. Let's go to Mr. Voke Oshevire. From the perspectives of health and social care at this point in time, because you are a dominant player, a major player in the healthcare space. I mean, how did you respond to the outbreak of the pandemic, and what are the lessons that you are able to draw from it?
Thank you very much, and good day, everyone. First, I would like to congratulate the Alpha Mead Group and the all FM managers globally on the World Facility Management Day. Just to say that I'm representing the MD of JNC, Mrs. Claire Omache, who is unavoidably absent due to the postponement and the scheduling conflict. And for those of you who've met Claire, you know how passionate she is about healthcare, and she really would have loved to be on this panel. And going straight to it, COVID-19 was the perfect storm, and I think it's a classical example, and I think it's redefined in a lot of ways the way healthcare and facility management in the interface, because I think it also brought to bear that critical synergy and interaction between both sectors. And I'll talk a bit more about that later. But importantly for us, nobody saw it coming. So, and to a lot of things that people have already said, we had to radically, quickly innovate and be dynamic. I must speak to the first critical thing, which is really about people. In terms of engaging with the people. And when I say people, it's both our staff and for us as a proudly Nigerian Medical Equipment Solutions Company, we interface with a wide spectrum of healthcare organizations, both hospitals and healthcare related facilities. But the first thing was to make a connection with all our customers and to ensure that, I mean, they were, and to see how they were managing the epidemic. But importantly for us was the reality that people, once people see you as a solutions provider, it doesn't matter what you say you do, then once they trust you, they want you to do everything. So we got a lot of demand, even though at that time it wasn't really one of our core areas for PPE, personal protective equipment, and this was just on the back of people trusting us to be able to meet that emergency requirement. As we went along, I would say in totality, COVID-19 has been positive for the healthcare sector for a number of reasons. When I say positive, I'm sure a lot of people will say, how can a pandemic be positive? I think it's brought a lot of attention to healthcare, both from traditional healthcare, but also non-healthcare players. And I think it has also exposed the fragilities of the healthcare infrastructure in Nigeria specifically, but also brought about renewed commitment and interest both from the public and private sector. So we've seen significant investments, we've seen significant conversations in changing the narrative. We've also seen the role that technology plays in terms of radically changing access. We saw things in terms of a rise in telemedicine. We saw different ways in terms of connecting and meeting with the ecosystem and the patients. So it's really been the perfect storm, but all things considered, I would say it's positive and it's redefined the way we approach healthcare. And I do not, in my opinion, I don't think we'll go back to what we thought was normal. So I think welcome to a new normal, but all in is positive and it's exciting times. And we will be able to share more in terms of some of the trends and what we think will happen going forward as we go along. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Chevrolet, and thank you so much for also keeping to time there. So we'll go over to Captain Dapo Olumide, who will be speaking to us, giving us his first words around customers and markets. I mean, basically, there are so many issues in that area. You've got customer perspective there in terms of the greatest concerns of a lot of the customers that you had. I mean, earlier in the chat box or Q&A box, there was a question around how you were able to manage those concerns that came from your customers and from clients that you have hundreds of them on your radar.
Well, look, good morning, everybody, and thank you for inviting me to this roundtable. You have to understand, I'm speaking as an end user, which is a unique perspective you're about to hear. COVID experience. There were significant challenges at the time, okay? And bear in mind, being the chairman of a residents association means that I face the brunt of all the concerns and apprehensions of all the residents in the estate. And they think that I have the answer to everything and had planned everything in advance. And of course, I'm the interface between the residents and the facility management company. Now, AMF is highly experienced in what they're doing. There's no doubt about that. The primary concern we had at the time of the outbreak of COVID was safety and security. Safety from the health perspective and security from the perspective of keeping unwanted people out of the estate. And what I mean by unwanted people was people who hadn't had a COVID test. And that was a big challenge because you have all sorts of contractors coming in, workers, gardeners, drivers, security guards, the FM facility people, the cleaners, the janitors, cleaning the swimming pool. This was a huge challenge. Who was coming in and where were they coming in from? They're coming in from home. And you know where a lot of these people live, it's high density. If any of you, I must speak on behalf of Mark Norris, if you've ever seen a Danfo in Lagos, you'll know that there's nothing about social distancing. You know, you're just jam-packed in there, and then these people are coming into the estate and bringing what with them? So that was a huge challenge we had. But with AMF, we were able to resolve that by keeping the staff, the AMF staff on site for 4 weeks during the lockdown, okay? And during that time, we provided food, accommodation. We shared the costs between AMF and the residents, and some residents actually provided food to the staff. So that was very, very useful. And from the lessons learned from this whole experience, and don't forget, COVID is with us forever, just like the flu or the common cold, Ebola, it's going to be with us forever. It's not going anywhere. What will happen is it will reduce. And by the time everybody's vaccinated or the herd immunity comes into play, it will be reduced. And you just have to take the vaccination once a year or something, but it'll always be there. So what are the lessons learned? The lessons to learn from this is, number one, planning and funding. Planning in advance for what's going to happen. It's coming back. Funding, who's going to pay for it? How do you pay for it? Let's say we provide accommodation for the AMF staff in the estate. I'm not asking AMF to provide boys' quarters for 10 staff and so on. No. What you can do is, in your management office in the estate, put mosquito nets on the windows and get these bunk beds, foldable bunk beds, so that if it comes back again, you can just bring out the bunk beds. The place has got the mosquito nets, and so it'll be a healthy environment for them. Okay, and then the future, we've got to plan for the future. Like I said, it is coming back. You've got to identify the staff you have. You've got to provide a busing system to take them from where they're living and bring them to the estate where they'll stay for several weeks. You've got to do the COVID tests before they come into the estate with a positive result. You've got to do the rotation every 4 weeks or thereabouts, which is difficult for them and their families, because don't forget, a lot of the AMF technical staff are coming into the residents' houses to fix air conditioners and leaking pipes and so on. So it's very important. But you know, again, with future planning, we remember the Ebola outbreak. We were just lucky in Nigeria. Let's not say it was planning, we were just lucky. Same thing with COVID, we're just lucky. It's not due to planning, we're just lucky, all right? You know, they say there's not a lot of COVID in Nigeria. Yes, of course there isn't, because you haven't tested everybody. If you test everybody, you'll find that it's much higher than you think it is. So let's prepare for the future and have processes in place so that when it happens again in the next 100 years, I won't be here and my children will not be here, but my grandchildren will be here. And there will be processes in your manuals that will cater for the next epidemic. So that's a pandemic. So let's just bear that in mind. But we are very lucky, and all the residents in my estate will tell you, we're very lucky to have the likes of Alpha Mead, because you're highly experienced in what you're doing. And I'm saying this because I'm a critical person. I'm a pilot by profession. So I'm very detailed in what I'm looking for on a technical side. And AMF certainly delivers on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Captain Olumide, and thank you for finding your time to join us today. That you're not flying actually, because we do know that a lot of pilots like you are typically busy. Thanks a great deal for flying with us on AM facilities today. Let's go to Mr. Mark Norris. You just gave us your presentation, but it's time to ask you this question. What strategies must every business in the facilities management and real estate industries today adopt to address the VUCA, which are the vulnerabilities, uncertainty, complexity, and perhaps ambiguity, which is what your presentation was based on earlier?
Yes, certainly. This is, well, as it was based on criticality. We've just heard from Dapo that critical assets for the maintenance of residential facilities are the people themselves who carry out the maintenance. So you have to have those people on board. The scenario that he just put forward, whereby you have people who are tested and kept on the campus for the period of time, that makes a degree of sense. In terms of the actual facilities themselves, it's what parts of them are critical. Well, cleanliness is paramount for all of this. So making sure you have a clean water supply, that becomes critical. So this allows you to target what you need to do on the site and the type of people that you need to have on. Again, the air conditioning systems, you need people, if they're getting hot, and one of the effects of COVID is that people get a high temperature. So obviously you need to have cooling facilities on board. So it allows us to assess what is critical and where we need to apply our resources and the type of resources that we need. So we need in terms of spare supply, So what is our spare supply route like? Can we still get this? With businesses closing down and businesses struggling to operate with a reduced level of staffing, you might find that your supply chain is interrupted. So you might need to take a proactive approach to getting spare parts in that you know you're going to need. So the type of filters and so forth that you need to replace in your air conditioning units, getting in motors, making sure you've got bearings and so forth available, so you can continue operation. So you need to look back through your supply chain as well. So it's that forward and backward look of what items are actually critical and how you can take your approach forward. But again, as he said, we're going to be living with COVID forever. So, and it will be just like flu. Eventually things will calm down, because the vast majority of people, it has little or no effect on. So if you're under 40, certainly there's almost no effect at all. But if you're over 80, it's a death sentence. So it's looking after residents who are in those high risk categories and using people who are in the lower risk categories to do it, so that even if they do get it, they're not affected. You have to take them out of circulation until they're over it. But of course, once they've had it and developed the antibodies, they're actually a safer resource to use.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mark Norris. Have you had the jab at all?
Yes, I have.
Oh, congratulations. So it looks like you're completely safe now. Anyways, let's move on. That was just by the way. Let's move on to Nicholas Gears. Mr. Nicholas Gears is actually heavy in terms of African facilities management market and of course real estate. And Nicholas, something that I know of recently is that in Rwanda, they have recently just gotten some funding from the Eastern and Southern African Development and Trade Bank, some $14 million or thereabouts, to give facelift to the King Faisal Hospital in Rwanda. I presume you know about that. But basically, that is to take us deeper into the African market in terms of facilities management and real estate, how governments and multilateral agencies are responding to all of the issues around retail and facilities management. How will you say that corporates, residentials received the impact of COVID-19? And in your opinion, what do you think has changed for FM markets in Africa at this point in time?
All right, thank you very much, panelists. Thank you very much, listeners, and thank you very much from the AlphaMate team, my beautiful colleagues, for putting together this seminar. Yeah, now, so looking at, I'm going to briefly talk, looking at our trajectory from the beginning of the pandemic till today across Africa. So now, what was our experience was that across Africa, there were different perceptions, especially in different countries, by different governments. They had a different perception. They had a different interpretation of the World Health Organization guidelines. If you look, for instance, the Southeast Africa plus Nigeria plus Ghana, they had a perception from the beginning that this was going to be something that will change the entire world and will change our lives forever. But it wasn't the same case in West Central North Africa, where they perceived this, I would say the Francophone Africa, where they perceived this as just something temporary that was going to happen, and then we go back to life the way it used to be. But if now it made it the way that in different regions you had different interpretations, even from different individuals, just like what Dakwa was saying, and you begin to worry about these interpretations where people are interpreting on the basis of religious beliefs, and some are interpreting on the basis of, okay, this is our culture, this is how we think, and this is how we reason. So in Southeast Africa, you realize that, and Nigeria and Ghana and other English-speaking countries, you realize that there was a decline in the corporate real estate because everybody was beginning to believe that working from home was going to be the new direction. Then you'll also realize that there was increase in FM scope, not increase in the demand for residential real estate, but there was increase in scope, and then there was readjustment in scope for retail facilities because some facilities actually considered to be necessary facilities for the survival of the people were still operating, and there was also a decline in the supply of in supply based on this readjustment and this decline in demand across the Southeast Africa. But this wasn't the case in the Francophone Africa, because since they believed, in fact, some of them started locking down a lot later, and they would regret because cases started increasing rapidly. They actually didn't experience the tremendous decline in corporate real estate the way it was in Southeast Africa and in English-speaking Africa. Instead, they actually stood their grounds to some extent, but let's also realize that there was increase in scope and decrease in scope, readjustment in scope for residentials and real estate facilities. Now, what this made was that for us as Alpha Mead, it created a position where we needed to prepare for either what is happening in West Africa and what is happening in East Africa, because the clients had different specifics. And as at December 2019, when it was happening around the world, we had already started feeling this. So we're already putting in place, engaging the clients. You're looking at this, if it comes to Africa, what are you going to do? So it positioned us in a place where we actually had the back of our customers, and we started thinking about their businesses. Now, all of this happening created a shift, which actually made client organizations, in most cases, client organizations who did not have strong FM partners, to reduce capacities they had built over the decades. And this reduction in capacity has an impact, because when businesses resume, because we believe that actually there are more FM opportunities in Africa, there will be more FM opportunities in Africa once everyone gets vaccinated. This this is creating a way for non-performing and incompetent FM companies to be identified, because their customers could not depend on them when they needed them most. Now, for us in Alpha Mead, which is what we offer to most of our clients, yes, we have now realized that it is also creating a shift in the way contracting is being done, because non-performing FM companies are being exposed, and then performance-based companies are actually being identified. And the next thing will be for FM companies to build on competence, because contracting is no more going to be on the basis of relationships, since it is a life and death matter. So FM companies, competence is the next direction. And when I mean competence, I mean in the right sense of it, from global standards, local standards, client-specific needs, and every other direction that we would be required to go to after here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nicholas Guess. I appreciate all of those contributions there. And may I just quickly announce that if you really like to know more about the solutions that Alpha Mead facilities offer, you can quickly look out for the link that has just been shared in the chat box there. Fill up that form, and you will be able to get access to all of those solutions that Alpha Mead facilities offer. Basically, earlier somebody was asking a question in the Q&A chat box around the one of the key facilities that Engineer Akitunde mentioned earlier, and that is as it relates to its availability in Abuja. I think that is the chat to service or chat to solutions app that Engineer Kitunde mentioned earlier. So they really would want you to quickly address that, perhaps in 60 seconds, so we can go for the second round of question on the panel, Engineer Kitunde.
Right, thank you very much. I saw the question too. Yes, the rollout plan for call to fix, we just completed the customer testing phase about 2 months ago. So what we're doing now is we are rolling out Lagos gradually. We've started servicing customers. The vendors registration has increased close to 400 now for different building materials that they are selling through the app. We have close to 1,000 artisans now, majorly covering the island and some part of the mainland. So once we finish rolling out Lagos to a point, Abuja and Port Harcourt will follow, and then we will take Kano and a couple of other states Across Africa, what is delaying the rollout to other countries at the moment is that we are looking for the payment gateway partner. And the good thing is that between Paystack and Flutterwave, the two of them are now also rolling out. They've rolled out in South Africa. We saw the news for Flutterwave in South Africa. So we may roll out South Africa before the end of this year. Ghana is on the queue. Senegal is on the queue. Ethiopia is on the queue. So that's the rollout plan. All this will happen over the next 12 months. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Engineer Akintunde. That means you're really ready as AMF for the AFCFTA, the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. Thanks a great deal for launching us into that. I'll come back to you quickly, Mr. Mark Norris, with a quick question. If you could also help us address that and within a space of just 1 minute or 60 seconds, how can the real estate facilities management business really draw from the pandemic experiences to create a blueprint for business sustainability and basically for growth? I bet you know that at this point in time, there are quite a number of facilities that are just going to be totally vacant, and that will rise to vacancy rates on buildings, facilities at this point in time. Because we'll be seeing more conversions to just workspace renting, which is something that is already playing out in Kent, somewhere where I am at the moment. So basically, how would some of the budding companies in the FM space, real estate, be able to leverage these pandemic experiences for growth at this point in time?
To leverage them for growth. To be able to show people how well they have dealt with their facilities during the pandemic, to be able to prove to people how well they've been able to manage them and how they've been able to keep them operating. It would be a benchmarking exercise to say, well, this is how well we've done, and therefore promote yourself and say, we have managed to continue operating our assets effectively and kept our facilities running effectively throughout the pandemic. So in terms of it being a facility for growth, you can also use it to say, well, we've spoken about criticality, so you'll have stripped down what you're doing to what is essential in terms of maintenance. So then you can look at your through life cost and say, well, if we've stripped it down to this as being the basics, the things that we can't avoid and what we have to do, then are we over maintaining other assets? Therefore, in terms of that growth, it allows you to reinvest in your own operations and improve them.
Thank you very much, Mr. Norris. There, let me come to you, Captain Olumide, quickly with this question. There's still this controversies about the vaccine at this point in time. And we do know that some countries are currently considering the possibility of demanding for the certificate for vaccination to be able to get access, to markets or to countries going forward. As a consumer and as an end user, what are your thoughts on these, considering the controversies that are still surrounding the vaccine at this point in time?
Well, the controversy will be there forever, because anything new, people like to discuss it and argue about it, just like when you watch a football match. But we're used to the yellow card, right? Which has your yellow fever and all those things in it. The COVID certificate is no different from that. No different at all. And that's going to be, actually, the only reason you'd be concerned is if you're an international traveler. If you fly, and when I say international, I mean even going to Cotonou and Accra. If you intend to go to these countries, you better have a certificate, because without which, you're not going to be allowed in eventually. And the point in time will come when airlines will not even board you unless you have proof of your certificate, okay? So there's no need arguing about it. It's the new normal. And actually, it's a good thing to have, because many airlines like British Airways and Co, Emirates and Qatar, they're already introducing these certificates on their flights. They can actually give you those tests themselves. So it's not a cause for concern. It's just the way it should be. But if you're not intending to travel, if your life is just between Lagos and Ibadan, then don't worry about the certificate.
All right, then. Thank you so much. At some point, I understand that if you don't have certificates for vaccination, you probably won't be able to get access to some facilities as well. But we can only wait to see how that will pan out eventually. I'll come to you, Voke.
That's correct. Yeah, that's
you are
correct.
in the healthcare space, and at this point, we know that the Nigerian healthcare sector is still heavily challenged in terms of funding. Something that I keep referencing is what has played out recently in Rwanda. The King Faisal Hospital is just going to be getting some sort of a facelift. They've just gotten some huge funding. How do we address the issue or the challenge of funding in the African healthcare sector going forward?
Thank you very much, Faisal. I think funding remains a big issue in terms of healthcare. And one of the reasons for this is because there's a lack of opacity or transparency in terms of real healthcare information. And there's this argument about whether health is a social investment or if it's a business. I think to the extent that healthcare must be sustainable, you need to be able to demonstrate to the owners of capital that they can get a return on investment. I mean, because nobody really wants to lose money. And I think with COVID, one of the things that I think is positive is the fact that there's significant investment in technology and from patients information systems, hospital information systems, payment systems and all that. And that's creating more transparency. So if someone wants to invest in healthcare, you can actually have access to the data. One of the other challenges we've had in healthcare is the fact that most healthcare businesses or institutions, if I must say, don't have the right scale. They are typically owner-managed businesses that grow. So they don't have enough information. They're not large enough to be able to attract the right level of investment. So I think for COVID is positive in that regard, because now there's a lot more investment in technology. There's a lot more transparency. And there's also a lot of interest in terms of what we talk about social impact investing, where these are situations where we're seeing a lot of conversations right now, whereby people are looking at funding, not just from the perspective of financial return, but also from the benefits in terms of social impact and outcomes, life saved, quality improvement, and all those kind of things, which when you look at it from the SDGs and from the human living indexes, that's very critical. So it's going to, but compared to where we are coming from, I'm more positive about the direction we are going, and there's a lot more that needs to be done, but all players in the ecosystem need to work there. One more point on this, which is also very important, is in terms of demand-side financing, in terms of we need to deepen our health insurance base and create more demand guarantees that will attract and catalyze investment over the long term. So I'll stop here for today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Oshevire. Thanks a great deal there. This question is directed to you, Mr. Olufore, and it says, is there a time during the pandemic that your client has to reduce contract fees or even put a stop to the contract? If yes, in the case of putting a stop to the contract, how did you manage your staff at this point in time?
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, that's a very good question. Like I did mention, one of the impacts of the pandemic stemmed from the fact that offices became empty, but the residences were not empty, right? So we still had business to provide, to provide services, So what we did was to collaborate with most of our clients, have discussions around, okay, the number, of the core team on site, how many do we need? When you were providing services for 100 and you now have to provide service for about 20 persons, you certainly do not need the same human capital or raw materials to provide the services. So there was a bit of recalibration. So the scope reduced, the monthly fees reduced, but then just those elements, right? And then the other elements remain a constant because we have invested in the backend support, providing the services in the field. So we were able to negotiate a scope reduction and cost reduction, but then it did not affect our profit fee, let me put it that way, because the investment remains a constant, whether you like it or not, whether you're providing service for 1 or for 20. Some investments, the cost remains constant. So most of our multinational clients were able to accept that proposition, and we were able to remain afloat in business.
Thank you very much. Thanks a great deal, Mr. Olufore, for that answer. Nick, there's got one question to be directed to you here, and it's got to do with business automation and the real estate ecosystem, in particular, the outlook in the, let's say, the developing countries. What is the future of real estate business in Nigeria and in Africa at large? I know earlier Engineer Kitunde mentioned the possibility of spreading across the African market. So give us the outlook, short term or medium to long term.
Okay, so from my experience across Africa, I believe that we are not really ready, technologically speaking, to work from home. And then morally speaking, I also think we are not ready to work from home. And I'll tell you why, because I have realized across Africa, not only in Nigeria, that working from home is interpreted as off day. And so many people working from home have their phones switched off. You're not able to reach them. They are not able to deliver to a certain capacity, to expected capacity, because they don't have the resources they have at the office. So I believe that the corporate real estate is coming back, and it is coming back with increased opportunities, because when it comes back, FM services will be required more, because organizations will depend more on FM companies for business continuity plan, occupational safety programs, and general workplace safety. That is the workplace management facet of facilities. Now, when it comes to residential, again, we do not see an increase in residential real estate coming up, except there is really a drastic economic change across Africa. But for corporate real estate, commercial real estate, we are hoping, and we believe from the indicators we are seeing, that there is hope. And then there's also hope for FM companies who are building themselves on competence and compliance.
Thank you very much, Mr. Guest. Thanks a great deal. And let me get your final words, Mr. Mark Norris, before going to Dr. Captain Olumide.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yes, just your final word on the program today. If you would like to string that with the outlook for facilities management real estate in the global advanced markets generally.
Okay, in terms of those advanced markets, I mean, facilities asset management is a growing discipline. I sit on the membership board of the Institute of Asset Management, and we see the majority of applications coming through from facilities managers who have realized that asset management and facilities management are slightly different, that the through life approach we take with asset management has huge benefits for facilities management. So as I say, we have this growing discipline now, facilities asset management. In terms of the forward look, I think that growth area is going to continue, and people are going to pull more and more on the asset management skill set to manage their facilities.
Many thanks, Mr. Norris. Thank you so much for that wonderful contribution there. Captain Olumide, let's hear your final words.
Well, look, going forward, let's ourselves long term, and that means ultimately all the AMF staff going into residential estates would have to have a COVID certificate. That would give a lot of comfort to the estate themselves. And you've got to try and employ staff who live closer to the estate than they do to their respective houses. Okay, and once you have that in place, it gives a great amount of comfort to the residents within the estate. So I think that's, going forward, what needs to be looked at. But from a technological point of view, AMF is doing remarkably well. They do have all the technical stuff at hand. Thank you.
This means you've got more work to do in terms of awareness creation around COVID-19 vaccines. Thanks a great deal, Captain Olumide, for that. Mr. Voke Oshevire, let's hear your last comments on the show, on the program today.
Okay, thank you very much. On a final word, I'll say, looking into the future, I mean, it's quite positive. I'll just quickly look at it from 4 dimensions. One is if you look at it from systems and processes, I think there will be improved use of technology. In healthcare real estate design, you see changes because in terms of how you design your spaces, you are going to look more at appointment-based systems, so decentralized waiting. You have to really review and strengthen your HVAC and HEPA filtration systems. And then you must strengthen and re-evaluate deep cleaning protocols. So when it comes from a facility maintenance perspective, you will have to look at that because people will be confident when they know that there's deep cleaning in your healthcare facilities. In terms of investment, I think in terms of forward investments in healthcare real estate, I think it's going to be strong, even stronger than before. We think that there's going to be a lot of developments that will be mixed use. So where you have healthcare mixed with retail and with office and just having those kind of mixed developments. So we see a lot of that coming up, and of course, technology, improved use of telemedicine and all the variables. So overall, I think it's very positive and it's really exciting times ahead. Thank you.
What industrial revolution? I cannot run away from it. Thank you so much, Mr. Osheviri. I appreciate those comments there. Mr. Wale Olufore, let's quickly hear your final thoughts because there's a whole lot of banking questions in the chat boxes and of course the Q&A box here that we can't really answer at this point in time. But I know that when we fill some of this questionnaire link that we have in the chat box, we will be able to get some response, and perhaps an email address will be circulated eventually for you to post your questions to, just in case you want some kind of a mentoring session with Alpha Mead facilities. But Mr. Wale Olufore, let's get your final comments on the program.
Yeah, thank you, Temple. Yes, as the world slowly reopens, to businesses, things are not normal yet, but as we move towards normal, no doubt about it that technology has come to stay. I did mention that we should think about the 4th industrial revolution. We are in the era of digitization where a whole lot of new technologies are out there for us to leverage to facilitate the way we do what we do to ensure the end user experience is enhanced. And to do that creatively, we must gather relevant data, harvest them on a periodic basis so that there is what we call regular analytics that will facilitate business decision making. And once we are able to do this, it's easy. It becomes easy because, I mean, the future lies on those who are able to, in the heart of what we do is what we call responsiveness. And for you to be able to respond, in VUCA, the A there, the last word there is agility. That means you have all the parameters at your fingertips and you are able to respond immediately. So we at Alpha Mead, we continue to invest in technology, and I encourage all our competitors and friends out there, invest in technology. The opportunities are so huge, and then you can take the future into your hands easily. The pandemic has come to stay. It can re-emerge again tomorrow with different variants, but if we are able to draw from the lessons learned over the last few months of the pandemic, leverage technology to do a whole lot of things the way the new world is doing it, we in Africa would be on the right path to sustainable FM. Thank you.
Thanks a great deal, Mr. Wale Olufore. Thank you so very much for that wonderful last comments on the show. Let's, well, if you're still with us on the program this afternoon, you have the privilege of listening to the final comments or final word from Engineer Akintunde, who is the facilities management markets leader himself. So let us hear your thoughts, your final words, as it were, Engineer Akintunde, on the program today. Of course, we know that we're circulating email addresses and phone numbers for those that will have more questions that we can't answer on the call this afternoon, eventually. Engineer Akintunde, over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Temple, and I want to thank all our panelists for gracing this occasion. We've shared a lot. It's not my duty to do the thank you for now. Both of thanks will be given by one of my colleagues, but I just feel this personal responsibility to you guys, especially Mark, my very good friend from the UK. We should have brought you to Nigeria about 4 years ago. We spoke on this same event at a hotel. And also when we were setting up a railway system, because we worked on the 50-year rolling plan of the Bakerloo line, the underground station. Your experience would have been very useful to Nigeria. So we brought you to Nigeria to help us in making some input to that strategy for Nigeria, which Alpha Mead sponsored. We had to do that for our country. Unfortunately, there are 1 or 2 challenges. So, but we'll still bring you back to Nigeria very soon. My last word is very, very simple, and is to the effect that what happened to the world last year as a result of COVID has activated a new environment of VUCA, which is what Mark Norris' presentation centered on, which is volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. That is not going to change very quickly. The only solution we have is to find a way to adapt our lifestyle to it. And in doing that, individuals have a role to play. You have responsibility to yourself, to your family members. We have to be more cautious. We have to be more careful. We have to be more sensitive to what we do and how we do it to minimize exposure. Facility management is a critical requirement now, more than ever before, because you need that environment that is safe for people to work, to live, and to play. We manage the largest mall in Nigeria, the Adobairo Mall in Kano, and we know what has happened and the safe extra measure we have to take for people who are coming to the mall. You can imagine the traffic to the mall. We manage offices for the large corporate, most multinational, like we say in Alpha Mead. It's only when it's big and when it's complex that it excites Alpha Mead. For that reason, our capacity is built to handle complex projects, to handle large-scale facilities management projects. Affordable homes, we do mass housing. Those are the big things we like to do, and we keep improving our capacity in that respect. So this is the reality, let's adjust. Infrastructure improvement in Nigeria is not going to change overnight. It's still very, very far behind where it should be. Our capacity is still 4,000 megawatts for a population of 200 million people. The minimum we need as at this time, the minimum is between 100 and 200,000 megawatts of power, of electricity, to become truly industrialized. And when you get industrialized, you produce more than you consume. Right now, we're consuming more than we are producing. And it's putting a lot of pressure on our foreign earning, on our local currency and everything. And that is why the Naira value will continue to depreciate. The more we consume and depend on foreign importation, and we're not producing. The only way you can empower your currency is through production. We have to empower, we have to expand our productive base. We have to become more productive as a nation. We are not at the moment. And the only way out is that infrastructure has to grow. Alpha Mead has remained the technical partner to Nigerian Society of Engineers in the Nigerian Infrastructure Scorecard for the past, we started this for the past 6 to 8 years. Every year, Nigerian Society of Engineers conducts a special survey of how Nigerians feel about the current state of infrastructure across the country. And we engage subject matter experts from the provider angle, from public sector, to tell us what they are doing to improve the state of infrastructure, from roads to water to bridges to telecoms to oil and gas to prisons to law to so security. It covers a wide range. One of my colleagues, who is the project consultant lead, has just pasted the link there. I would like everybody on this call today to please take this survey. If you don't talk, Government won't know what you are doing. This report gets to the presidency. It goes outside Nigeria. Investors see it. And we've been getting calls from outside Nigeria of people who want to see opportunity in areas where we have gap and they want to invest. So please tell Nigerian Society of Engineers, tell Nigerian government where you think our state of infrastructure is. This input is compiled and we compare it to other African countries and to other global best practices to make the point known to them. As for my FM practitioners, I think the managing director of our FM company, Mr. Wole Olufore, has already said what we need to do. We do not have sufficient capacity in facilities management in Nigeria now. FM companies must be prepared to invest in building their capacity. Many times, AlphaMead, we feel lonely at the top. That is the honest truth. Because when I have more companies that can compete effectively, we will excite the customer. We will raise the standard of facilities maintenance and management in Nigeria. Right now, we do not see that capacity. People think they can get by with little things. You will continue to play at the low scale. We need more people to play at the premiership level in FM industry. Then we will become more respected as a profession. We'll become more respected as companies. And AlphaMead Facilities is doing its best, but it's not enough. We need more players. We need more bigger platform to operate and to continue to project this service so that Nigerians will continue to enjoy better places where they live, work, and play. And I thank you very much for the time today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Engineer Femi Akintunde. Well, there you have it. You've just heard it, of course, from the market leader himself, calling now for some sort of healthy competition. And let's hope that we get some more companies, to come on board to, of course, join at the top to be able to help sustain the FM market in Nigeria and, of course, across Africa, where we know that the effects of impacts of the pandemic has become really, really difficult at this point in time to quantify. We must thank you so much for all our panelists, 6-men panelists on the show today. Thanks a great deal for coming on board. Thank you for honoring us with your presence and your presentations and comments, your first and last words. Really highly appreciated here. I must confess that a lot of people that have joined, participants, attendees on the program today, have learned one or two things from you. Mr. Mark Norris, the Director for Asset Reliability Consultants Limited in the United Kingdom, thank you so very much. You are highly appreciated for being a part of the program today. Captain Dapo Olumide, the Chairman, Executive Committee of K Cardwell Residents Association. Thanks a great deal for finding time to fly with us, even though you were not the pilot, but you were just a passenger on board with us today. Thanks a great deal. Really appreciate it. We must also appreciate your presence, Mr. Voke Oshevire, the Executive Director of Sales, Marketing and Business Development at JNC International, ably representing Mrs. Claire Omasheye, the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of that entity. Thanks a great deal for your wonderful comments. We do hope that we will have light at the end of the tunnel in the healthcare industry in Nigeria. I hope in the next future, we will also be able to come up with a vaccine developed in Africa, in Nigeria specifically. Thanks a great deal. Mr. Wole Olufore, we really appreciate your comments. Thank you for your wealth of knowledge shared on the program today. Thank you so very much. We appreciate you. We had the opening remarks earlier from Mrs. Wole Odufalu, the Group Executive Director, Corporate Services of AlphaMead, and the immediate past chairperson of the Institute of Workplace and Facilities Management in Nigeria. Thank you so much for honoring us as well with your presence. Now it's about time to hear from Mr. Damola Akin-Dolire, the Managing Director of AlphaMead Development. He will be giving us the closing remark at this point in time.
Good morning, everybody. Wow, it's been a very exciting and engaging session. I must say, good job, Temple. You kept the vibe all through and kept the attention of both the participants and the panelists well engaged. Thank you for doing justice to what you're used to doing. All right, let me say a very big thank you to our panelists. We have learned a great deal today. It's clear to us that from what you have said, that this is the new normal. And then we don't expect things to go back to what we're used to. And therefore, we must now begin to think of how to operate in a very dynamic environment, and that the use of technology will definitely play a very big role in who gets ahead in the 21st, in the fourth industrial revolution taking place. So it's important that companies continue to adjust their systems, processes, and adopt technology in such a way that they can get very agile with the events that take place in our world today. The AFCTA definitely would improve how competition happens on the African continent. Intra-Africa trade would improve. So therefore, many changes will continue to happen in our continent, and we're going to see quite a lot of these things as we look forward. Let me say a very big thank you to all our attendees. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. Keeping you engaged for 2 hours plus is certainly, we do appreciate and understand the value of your time. And we're quite grateful. And we hope that you've taken quite a lot of things to note, and quite a lot of things that will be implemented in your personal businesses to help drive your agenda forward. A special thanks to our guests, friends of the house who joined us on the call. We're very grateful. Thank you for all your support. And we look forward to having a more robust discussion again about the same time next year, where we can do a recap of some of the resolutions that we have taken at this call, and then see how much progress we have made in the new year. So on that big note, on behalf of the Board of Directors, members and staff of the Alpha Mead Group, we'd like to thank you all for your time and wish you all a fantastic day ahead. God bless you all.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here. Do remember to please fill out the form that has been circulated in the chat box. There are quite a number of contacts that have also been shared in the chat box here. Do endeavor to take these contacts, phone numbers, email addresses. They will certainly be useful to you all at some point in time. And if you have unanswered questions on the program this afternoon, please do feel free to mail customer care at alphamead.com. There, I'm very, very sure, 100% sure that your questions will be well answered. You've also got a care center number that has also been shared, 0700 2574 26323. 0700 2574 26323. Thank you so much for gracing this occasion this year, and we do hope we'll be able to have an opportunity to attend next year's edition in person, possibly at one of the Eyebrow hotels in Lagos, Nigeria. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your presence. I appreciate it. See you some other time. Bye for now.